There are almost 334 million people living in the United States, but its residents are far more concentrated than you might think. For example, there are more people living in New York City alone than the combined population of these 9 empty states. At the other end of the spectrum, the 9 states we're looking at today account for more than half of the entire population in America, even though they cover only 21% of its entire landmass. Here's why. Number 9. North Carolina. Known for its thriving economy, reasonable cost of living, and pleasant climate, North Carolina consistently attracts new residents. It has always maintained or increased its population since its inception and has never fallen below 15th place in any U.S. census. Unlike its neighbors, though, North Carolina was slow to urbanize. Until the 90s, a majority of its population lived in rural areas, with the majority of cities not even seeing that many residents. Charlotte, its largest city, for example, ranks only 23rd in terms of population among U.S. metropolitan areas. So, where does North Carolina's 10.8 million residents live, especially considering it ranks 28th in total land area? Well, unlike many southern states, North Carolina historically lacked the vast plantations that characterized other regions. Instead, its economy relied on numerous small-scale farms, which consequently led to more people being spread out over the entire state. While these family farms may not be as densely populated as urban areas, they are still more populated than many other rural regions in the United States. Additionally, the rapid industrialization of several mid-sized cities over the past 7 decades has contributed to a dispersed yet sizable population. Presently, North Carolina boasts 9 metropolitan areas, each with over 400,000 residents, and has consistently seen its population grow with each census count. North Carolina is arguably the most comfortably spread out compared to the rest of our list. Number 8. Georgia. Similar to North Carolina in land area, location, and population size, you might think it shares similarities in why it's so densely populated. But you couldn't be more wrong. Georgia, the last of the original 13 colonies, was originally founded in 1733 as a buffer zone between other colonies and the Spanish from Florida. It was also the only colony where slavery was strictly prohibited. Despite having the largest area of land, it had the smallest population of all 13 colonies. But Georgia's appeal changed swiftly when it legalized slavery in 1751. The state's fertile soil and favorable climate made it ideal for cultivating crops like cotton, indigo, and rice, leading to the establishment of numerous plantations. As a result, the population surged from a mere 5,200 residents in 1750 to over 1 million just before the Civil War. Yet with 44% of the population of Georgia being enslaved, the state's agrarian economy faced a significant setback following the abolition of slavery in 1865. Amidst this transition, one small railroad town seized the opportunity for growth in the new post-Civil War South, Atlanta. Atlanta, which had a population of only 22,000 when it was heavily burned during the war in 1864, swiftly rebuilt herself and emerged as Georgia's new capital by 1868. Its strategic location, where 3 major railroad lines converged, played a pivotal role in its ascent. Over time, as new modes of transportation emerged, Atlanta was positioned at the forefront, evolving into a crucial interstate hub. By 1980, it claimed the title of hosting the busiest airport on the planet, and is currently home to Delta Airlines, which is one of the most prominent and successful airlines in the United States. Atlanta's significance was further solidified during the Civil Rights Movement. But what iced the cake was the 1996 Olympics, which served as a catalyst, propelling Atlanta into the ranks of major international cities. Presently, its metropolitan population ranks 8th in the nation, boasting 6.3 million inhabitants, which represents 57% of Georgia's total population of 11 million people. Number 7. Ohio. Despite 80% of Americans residing in urban areas, Ohio's population is evenly spread across numerous cities, with 55 different metropolitan areas each housing over 1 million residents. Similarly, 77% of Ohioans live in urban areas, with 3 cities boasting metropolitan populations around 2.2 million, and 3 more with populations ranging from 600 to 800,000. Although Ohio may not currently host a single metropolitan area ranking in the top 30 largest in the nation, both Cincinnati and Cleveland held significant importance in America's past. Cincinnati's strategic location along the Ohio River, which served as America's primary east-west transportation route before the advent of railroads, made it a crucial stopover for travelers and goods moving between Pittsburgh and the Mississippi River. With the development of canals linking it to Lake Erie and the East Coast, Cincinnati's status as a transportation hub expanded, leading to a surge in industries like steamboat construction and meatpacking. By 1850, it had become the nation's leading port city and the fifth largest in terms of population. Cleveland was a little farther behind, but grew into a major manufacturing city about the time of the Civil War. The discovery of oil nearby further propelled its growth, establishing it as the nation's oil capital until 1900. As Cleveland's industrial economy diversified rapidly, with the establishment of automobile and airplane assembly lines, it accelerated to become the fifth largest metropolis by 1920. Although both of these major cities are no longer in their prime, and the state is slowly losing its numbers, it is remembered for being the third and fourth in total population for over a century, reflecting its enduring significance in America's demographic history. Despite the state's current population decline, Ohio continues to be home to 11.7 million residents. Number 6. Illinois. You might not realize this, but Illinois is probably one of the most boring states in the Midwest, with farmland covering approximately 75% of its land and over half of it being completely flat. So you're probably wondering how in the world this state is the sixth most populous state in the nation, boasting 12.5 million residents. Want to know why? Chicago. Chicago is the current third largest city in the United States with a metro population of 8.9 million, housing more people than all but 10 states, and accounts for 71% of all people in Illinois. With Peoria, the state's next largest city, only having a metropolitan population of 376,000, no other state is as reliant on a single city for its significance. So why did Chicago turn into such a vital city in America for much of the 20th century? Well, in echoing the words of your realtor, location, location, location. In 1848, a canal was opened in Chicago that connected the Atlantic Ocean by way of the Gulf of Mexico and the Great Lakes by utilizing the Mississippi River watershed. Because of its strategic location, Chicago asserted itself as the nation's transportation hub, which was further solidified when it was designated as the railroad capital in the 1850s. It's also home to an abundance of natural resources, which facilitated its transformation into a hub for more industries such as lumber, steel, meatpacking, and grain, just like its neighbor Ohio. As a result, its population surged from just 4,000 residents in 1840 to become the nation's second most populous city by 1890. While Chicago reached its peak sometime in the 1960s and is currently experiencing a decline in population, its endurance reflects its resilience amidst the changing economic and demographic trends. Number 5. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania may be small in size at just 46,000 square miles, making it the 33rd largest state in the country, and less than half the size of Wyoming. Yet it boasts a population of 12.9 million people. So why then would it have 22 times the amount of people living here than Wyoming? One word: history. If you remember anything from your history classes, Pennsylvania's biggest city, Philadelphia, played a pivotal role in American history. It's home to the Liberty Bell, which rang for almost 100 years and oversaw the drafting and signing of our nation's most important documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. It even served as the nation's capital until 1800. But what really brought in the numbers was industrialization in the 19th century, with things like textile manufacturing. This led to Philadelphia being the nation's second largest metropolitan area until 1900. Today, it ranks as the 7th largest and is home to 5.8 million residents. But what Philadelphia doesn't tell you, we need to learn from the other half of Pennsylvania. You see, the state is half East Coast and half Midwest. Philly is considered part of the East, but Pittsburgh, its second largest city, is the Rust Belt's star performer. In fact, East End, a single neighborhood in Pittsburgh, held 40% of the country's wealth in 1900. This was a testament to Pittsburgh's rise as the global steel capital, which produced over half of the nation's steel by 1910. From 1840 to 1980, it consistently ranked among the nation's top 10 metropolitan areas. And yes, it's also home to Scranton, Pennsylvania, the town that inspired the location of the hit TV series The Office. But regardless of the show's popularity, Pennsylvania will definitely need something else to keep its numbers, as there has been a small decline in recent years. Number 4. New York. The Big Apple is home to New York City, which stands as the emblem of America, leading the nation in fashion, theater, sports, marketing, and even waste management. Well, everyone knows that New York City just oozes people out of every pore in its infrastructure, but exactly what makes a city so attractive? Well, let's not forget that they still sell pizza for only $1 a slice. But like Chicago, it also comes down to its strategic location on a vast harbor coupled with access to crucial waterways like the Hudson River and the Erie Canal, which serve to connect the Great Lakes with the Atlantic Ocean. By the 1820s, New York had established itself as America's foremost port and a nexus of trade. This, coupled with the largest wave of immigration in American history, led to a compounding effect, solidifying New York as the epicenter of numerous industries and the city of opportunity for many migrants. The metropolitan population surged from 124,000 in 1820 to a staggering 7.9 million a century later, surpassing London to become the largest city in the world. Presently, the metro area is home to 18.9 million people, nearly equivalent to the entire population of New York State, which stands at 19.6 million. Though upstate New York has faced challenges over the past 6 decades, and New York City's population is declining, the state maintains a lead of nearly 7 million residents over Pennsylvania. It's unlikely to lose its rank as fourth for the next 100 years or so. Now, before we get to the final 3, let me know in the comments which of these states appeals to you the most. Number 3. Florida. It's only been a decade since Florida became the 3rd largest state by population, de-ranking the great state of New York. Yet, unlike any of these other states, Florida's journey to the top was marked by one of the most dramatic transformations. Historically, it was one of the least populated states, primarily due to the challenging climate characterized by oppressive heat, humidity, swarms of mosquitoes, and hurricanes. Pretty sure they still get those. What kick-started their success in numbers was originally due to the Great Freeze of 1894 to 1895, during which most of the United States experienced massive crop failure except those in Miami. This event highlighted the region's potential and spurred significant development efforts, including the completion of the first railroad to Miami in 1896, and numerous projects that transformed wetlands into farmlands. In the beginning, there was some slow growth, but Florida's population remained relatively stagnant until after World War II, when air conditioning became affordable and revolutionized the state's appeal. Almost overnight, Florida became a hotspot for tourism, offering year-round warm weather, a break from the heat with AC, the low cost of living, and favorable tax rates. This accelerated the growth of Florida, with many migrants seeking the opportunity for success. The growth popularity of air travel and the opening of Disney World in 1971 further cemented Florida's status as the premier beach tourism destination and resulted in an increase of thousands of jobs. The population of Florida surged from just 1.9 million residents in 1940 to 9.7 million in 1980, and stands at 22.9 million today. That's a 12 times increase in just 80 years. The state continues to attract a steady stream of Latin American immigrants, as well as individuals from northern states seeking refuge from cold climates and expensive, overtaxed regions. This gives Florida the distinction of becoming the fastest growing state in the nation. Number 2. Texas. Texas reigned supreme as the largest state in America until Alaska joined the U.S. in 1959. It boasts an impressive land size of 268,000 square miles, with its abundant natural resources fueling its remarkable population growth. Following statehood in 1845 and the completion of its first railroad in the 1850s, Texas emerged as a magnet for ranchers and farmers drawn to its vast expanses of fertile soil, open landscapes, and all things Texan. The state quickly ascended as the nation's cattle capital and grew from being the 7th least populated state in 1850 to the 6th most populated state in just 50 years. Despite this growth, a significant portion of Texans, about 83%, still resided in rural areas at the turn of the 20th century, contrasting sharply with 84% who now reside in urban areas. The biggest population boom, however, occurred in 1901, when Texans discovered one of the largest known oil reserves in the world, which fundamentally altered the state's economic landscape and made Houston the energy capital of the world. Consequently, Texas' other major cities, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin, experienced rapid urbanization driven by flourishing economics, a mild climate, and the proliferation of affordable, high-quality suburbs. While the rest of the United States grappled with deindustrialization in the 1970s to 90s, Texas thrived, emerging as the third most populous state by 1980 and ascended to second place by Y2K.
You did not just say that.
Today, Texas boasts a staggering population of 30.5 million people, and given its continued growth trajectory and the decline of the state we're about to mention, it wouldn't surprise me if Texas became number one in 20 to 30 years. Number 1. California. Now, here's a funny fact about California. It holds the distinction of being the fastest state ever admitted into the Union, achieving statehood just 2 years after the discovery of gold in 1848. Not only did that spark the largest gold rush in history, the government also wanted its share of those taxes. Since then, it has maintained its status as the fastest growing state until recently. San Francisco's strategic location near the gold deposits, coupled with its exceptional deep water harbor, propelled it to become the nation's 10th largest city by 1870. But the pivotal turning point in California was actually the discovery of oil in the small town of Los Angeles in 1892. This discovery, along with the subsequent rise of the film, agriculture, and tech industries in the ensuing decades, fueled monumental growth that transformed California into the second most populous state by 1950, and the largest just 12 years later. In 2020, however, California saw a decline of its population for 3 years in a row due to a mass exodus of people fleeing the state from the political and economic oppression. Today, the Golden State is home to 38.9 million residents, which is more than 4 times the amount of people living in these 9 states combined. Click this video to find out why.